Here we are again to talk about questions. As I've said many times in other videos, questions is one of the most powerful tools that I've ever learned in my entire life and career. And you can use them in the workplace, at home, in many, many other situations. It's really, really something I think anybody, especially those who lead people, if you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or even if you're a teacher, or even if you're a parent, you can make really, really good use of questions. Anyway, in this video, as I always like to do, I like to give you a practical example of how I used, in this particular situation, questions to get someone with whom I didn't have a very good relationship, with whom there was a great risk of arguing, and for whom I didn't particularly care for a great deal. I wanted to have the satisfaction of having that person to tell me, admit to me, what I really wanted to tell them. And the situation was this. Some years ago, I lived in a condo, and below us, there was a cafe. And this cafe was notorious for having a lot of parties, and there was just a lot of noise, and it was just incredible. And I remember one of the things they did during breakfast time, they would put tables outside in the summer, and one of the tables they put right in front of the main entrance of our condo building. So that when you leave the building, you had to ask for permission for people to move aside so you could get out. And we were like, this can't be right. So we complained to the landlord, and the landlord had the owner of the cafe remove that table from that particular location. And so one day I was on my way back home, getting ready to go into the main entrance, and I saw her, the owner of the cafe. And she said, "Did you see we took the table away?" And I was like, "Yeah, good." So I wasn't going to thank her. I didn't want to thank her because I said the table shouldn't have been there in the first place. You know, I didn't tell her that, but I just said, "Good, great." And she just looked at me and she said, "You just don't want us to really make a living, do you?" And I was like, "Why do you say that?" "Because you're always complaining about stuff. You don't want us to prosper." My instinct was to just fire back at her and say, "It's not true. All I really want is respect. That's all I want." That's what I really wanted to say. But I knew also from history, recent history of talking to her, I knew that if I went down that road, it was just going to be a massive confrontation. And I said, "Tone, switch it up. You talk a lot about asking questions, ask her questions." So I asked her a question. I said, "So why did you remove the table from in front of the entrance?" And she said, "Because somebody complained." And I was like, "Okay, but why did you take the table away?" "Because somebody complained, because you're always complaining. I know it was you." And I was like, wait a minute. I said, maybe I haven't made myself clear. So I just kept asking questions. I said, "Tone, ask questions." I said, "So let me ask you another question. So what if somebody would have complained that the cafe is making too much noise and they just want it to close so that there's no more problems anymore? Then what would you have done?" And she said, "We don't have to close because we have the right to be open." I said, "Great." I said, "So let me go back to the other question I was asking you. So why did you take the table away?" Once she understood, because I really wanted to hear her say it, but I knew she wouldn't want to say it because she was too proud. Because I wanted her to tell me the reason we took the table away is because the table is not allowed to be there. That's why we took the table away. That's the reason. But she didn't want to tell me. She said, "So you always want to be right." And then she walked away. Then I couldn't resist anymore. Then I said, "Well, now I'm going to tell her." And so as she was walking away, I was like, "The reason that you removed the table is because the table's not supposed to be there in the first place. That's why you took the table out." You see what I'm saying? But all I did was ask her questions. I just asked questions. You know, because if you go down that road and then you just start arguing, and then she's a person, for example, she will just talk over you or she'll walk away. And so I wanted her to stay there and to listen to me and to answer my questions. And if she didn't answer them directly to me, she answered them in her head. I know that. And that's why she got upset and walked away, because she knew that I was right. So once again, just a quick message to give you some really, really concrete examples about how to communicate effectively. In this particular case, how to get someone to tell you what you really want to tell them. But the first thing that you have to do in situations like this, you have to resist the temptation to tell people stuff. You can use the same kind of approach with your kids, with your employees, with your colleagues, even with your superiors, or when you go into a store, or sometime when you're out in a restaurant. You can use these questions And maybe not this particular situation, but you can use other types of questions to get the results that you want and to communicate more effectively. So like I always say, I'm not here to tell you what to do, just here to make you think. Just here to give you some stimulus to think. Okay? See you in the next video.